In the last few months, we've helped legal firms achieve up to a 10 times return on their marketing investment without huge advertising budgets. In 2026, firms that rely solely on word-of-mouth referrals will plateau, and the firms that understand how to combine word-of-mouth reputation with structured advertising will compound growth. And this is what happens in every industry. In this video, I'll explain why this matters for your firm and how to approach advertising in a way that actually drives revenue, not just leads. The way that most firms grow traditionally is they grow via word of mouth. Let's say there's 1,000 people who can benefit from your service, but you're only growing through word of mouth referrals. It means one person who has used your service is going to talk to one of those 1,000 people. And immediately, just from that analogy, you can already see how long it will take you to reach those 1,000 people. Now, the reality is, in the UK, for different services, sometimes there can be tens of thousands of people who could actually benefit from your service. But if you're going down the word of mouth approach, which is a one-to-one approach, you can imagine how long it would take you to actually get in front of people who could benefit from your service. And that's what most firms do traditionally. Now, the firms that are looking to grow faster are taking a one-to-many approach instead of a one-to-one approach. So they're doing advertising. And advertising is letting them get in front of many people straight away. So if we use that same example of having 1,000 people, with an advertiser, they can get in front of that whole audience of 1,000 people way quicker than you can if you're just relying on one-to-one word-of-mouth referrals. Now, I have simplified that a little bit. There is a bit more technicalities into it, but big picture, that is the gist behind everything. When you're doing the old way, the traditional way of one-to-one, it is word of mouth. And when you're doing advertising, it's one-to-many. And as a result, you get in front of more people quicker. And if you can get in front of more of your ideal customers, then you can also make more money faster as well. Now, this is extremely important because the firms that advertise, they still benefit from word-of-mouth referrals. So if you imagine you have a firm who is advertising to a group of 1,000 people, and let's say they get customers from that group of 1,000 people, then they now have all of those customers also spreading word-of-mouth referrals. So you're having 10 people refer 10 people, and then those 10 people refer another 10 people. And you can just see how much quicker that gap expands, and that is what is allowing firms to grow a lot quicker in 2026. But the question you probably have is, what is the best place to find this group of people that would actually be interested in your service? Now, what we've seen work well for all of our clients, and where we had some really good results, is from using social media advertising. Now, I've spoken to some firms before and they've said that Google is the only place where advertising works, and that's because people are actively searching for that thing, so that's where you can get qualified leads from. And while that is definitely correct in terms of on Google you have high intent leads, it's also important to keep in mind that the same people who are searching on Google are also active on social media. So if someone has searched for a certain problem on Google, you still have time to target that person on social media. Just to be clear, there are a few minor cases where advertising on social media wouldn't work versus Google, and it's only really for cases where the time sensitivity is the very most important thing. Social media advertising isn't going to work for someone whose car has just broken down and they need someone to come and fix it. That's where Google would work, primarily because it's such a short window in which a person has time to take action. But for most legal services, we've actually seen really good results with social media ads for our clients. For example, let's say someone got into a car accident. They might search for a lawyer because they need this service there and then. So of course, the time sensitivity would mean they'd go to Google. But it's not to say that you couldn't still target this person on social media after the fact that they'd been in an accident to help them with something else. Maybe let's say personal injury lawyers. And you see a lot of personal injury actually occurring on social media as well. We've also ran campaigns on social media for firms looking to target conveyancing, corporate, immigration, family, and criminal. And we've seen really good results with all of those firms as well. So social media is definitely a viable option. Now, while this all sounds good, there still is a catch, because if you don't get involved in social media soon enough, social media will soon become like Google. Most law firms know that Google ads is extremely expensive, but the truth is Google ads wouldn't have always been expensive, because advertising is like placing a bid. And there's only a certain amount of people who are searching for something at a particular point in time on Google. Similarly, on social media, there's only going to be a certain amount of people who can actually benefit from your service. So if you take too long to get involved in social media, that cost is going to go up as more people flood in there before you do. If we look at what's happening in Google, in some industries, the cost per click, as in the cost to just get someone to click on an ad to go to, let's say, your landing page, could be up to £80. That's extremely high. And what it does is, for smaller firms looking to get involved, they can't really compete that easily because the cost is just much higher than they could reasonably afford. And you may have heard this before, but there's a saying that the business that can afford to spend more on a customer is the business that wins. So if we look at the Google Ads example, let's say one firm can only afford to spend £100 to acquire a customer, but another firm can afford to spend £200 to acquire that customer. Google is going to take the person that can afford the 200, and the person that can only afford 100 isn't going to succeed as much. Now that is a very simplified way of looking at it, and it is a bit more nuanced to how it actually works on Google Ads, but there is an opportunity for firms that are slightly smaller to actually get onto social media. For the longest time, most firms have only ever thought about advertising on Google to get results. As a result, the legal industry has been quite slow to adopt social media, especially in the UK at least. This means that the cost to get in front of customers is quite affordable because the legal industry hasn't been saturated just yet. So the good news is that your firm still has time to start advertising on social media, break out of that word of mouth referral trap, and get more customers at a lower cost before the larger firms come in. This is the exact same reason why some of our clients have been able to get up to a 10 times return on their marketing just from social media advertising with much lower budgets than they would need if they were to be advertising on Google. If you found this helpful, we've created a number of in-depth videos on this channel breaking down marketing, sales processes, and how to build predictable client acquisition systems for law firms. If you want strategies tailored specifically to your firm and how to grow in your situation, you can book a free audit with our team in the description below. We'll look at your bottlenecks, whether it's marketing, sales, or positioning, and map out what growth could look like realistically for your firm as well.